Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Amir. Hey, Josh.
Hi, everyone.
What's the cabal planning for today?
That is a great question.
Yeah, I feel like I've
Oh,
been out of the
this
loop.
meeting is happening. Cool.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah, I feel like I've been out of the loop. I caught a cold last time, and that was like right before I went on vacation. Fortunately, I got better before I went on vacation, and then I just got back last night, so I'm trying to catch up on email and stuff.
No worries. Well, I'd say the TLDR from the last meeting was that overall, I think folks were happy with what we produced. We did our best with what we had. We're all volunteers here. OpenSSF in terms of like promotion and marketing the results of our set, thought that it just didn't make sense. So we said, okay. I think the plan now is to get what we have to some kind of a finished state. And then I think we need some open discussion, but also very focused discussion on essentially how to move forward and how to do this in a more, I think the main feedback was doing it in a more structured way, in a way that engages the community more. But that's kind of a double-edged sword, right? If everyone's feedback is, well, other people didn't participate in this, it's like, well, we can participate, but I think that's the goal is, we'll wrap up everything, all the work, all the blood, sweat, and tears that went into this effort, get it to a good final state, and then I don't want to say start from scratch, but really start to do it in a way that incorporates all the feedback that we've received, and hopefully do this in a more in a way that gets more engagement. There you go, engagement from across the OpenSSF and the greater open source community. So and part of that discussion might be ways that we can get people excited and engaged in this working group again, because I do think that arduous process of let's do our best to vote on all these projects and talk about them and vote on them, and a couple folks definitely stepped up, David, you being one of them, but it seemed like it in some ways it might have disengaged other folks too, and might have and that coupled, I think, with I think we had good intentions with trying our best to accommodate different time zones, but I think an unintended consequence of that was potentially hurting our attendance numbers a little bit. So with that, and of course, everything I'd like to think is driven by the group and not just myself or Jeff or any one person. So of course, anything is up to discussion here, and I would whatever the group, however the group would like to move forward. David, does that sound about right with kind of, I know you were in the TAC meetings as well, and you gave us a lot of good feedback and things to think about for moving forward. So does that sound like a pretty good plan?
Yeah, I mean, in general is part of the plan. I mean, again, I completely agree. I mean, great summary that we need to be more engaged. That was definitely feedback with the OpenSSF and the community in general. And again, as part of that engagement with the OpenSSF, as you said, is you know, who's producing the information, where are these recommendations from, and then who are the consumers? And I think we sort of, essentially, where do we fit into the OpenSSF pipeline of the rest of the SIGs and working groups and attack? I think that to me is the real, root cause. I mean,
Yeah. One thing that got me thinking a lot when we were talking about, Jeff, you brought up the idea of like the road show, which
Yeah.
Conceptually I really like. And but I wonder, like, part of me starts to wonder, like, is this starting to look like is this turning into a survey? Like, I'm curious, like, what the balance is of what we're trying to do with basically surveying the OpenSSF or the open source community and surveying them on what they, think are the most, critical set of projects. And I think this ties into what you said earlier, David. I think we have to just be painfully crystal clear about, the main aspects or data points of what this is.
I think the first survey we would want to do is not what do you think is critical, but what do you think is a useful list with what parameters? Like, what would you use it for, and what would you want to see as points of consideration for the list, right? So we could say, like, is this something that it is a set of critical projects, something that your working group can use? And if so, what are the restrictions needed on that to make it useful for you? So I think the roadshow should be, here's what we did. Here's the list. Here's how we made the list. Can you use it as is? Do you have any feedback on our process? What would you like to see in the next version? That kind of stuff. Or like with, like what considerations would you like taken in? How does that sound?
Excuse me. Conceptually, I think it certainly makes sense. And I suppose we might be getting, I think it's a good idea. Yeah. Now going back to kind of wrapping up the current version, and getting what we currently have to a finished state. How do we feel we're at progress-wise with that? Do we feel like we're very close? Do we feel like there's more work that needs to be done? I see there was a lot of feedback from the last meeting about the set of about our current set of projects. So I'm curious as to where we're currently at.
Did we ever find the missing packages? Like, I think David started like the document. He copied the first tab. I didn't even include any of the second tab. I don't know that we actually finished cleaning up the spreadsheet before we started the document. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm looking at, so I think one of the key documents is that Critical Open Source Software Projects 2023, which I believe was going to be the article or the blog post. And that has the set in there. I think it was just copied right out of.
Yeah, but that's the set. That's the version 1.0 set.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So that's probably not what we want to use.
Well, because we haven't actually merged. We haven't taken the second tab that's got the yeses and nos and taken all the yeses and merged it with the 1.0 list.
Okay.
Um,
So is that sorry, go ahead.
yeah, the second thing I thought was something we should think about is like, is this selection reasoning justification still useful? I think when we did 1.0, we made sure to capture that. But on this last iteration, we didn't, we have some notes, but they're all more like for ourselves, I think. So just kind of calling out like Docker download counts isn't really a reasoning. It was a reason why it was put on our plate, but not a reason why we decided it was critical. So if we like include that, that's going to be very misleading to the reader to how we did the list, and saying that, oh, we put this on here because it's highly downloaded or something. I don't know what we could put if we needed to go for the notes or for the column there instead, or if we need to have something at all.
Okay. Real quick though, I'm so sorry. Josh, did you want to get a chance to introduce yourself, or we usually do like a round of new faces, so I realized that we jumped over that. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, no worries. Yeah, so thank you, by the way, I appreciate that. So yeah, I'm Josh. I am a coordinator in the OSPO at ADI. The OSPO is relatively new. It's about a year and a half old at this point, but they've been doing open source for a long time. I was hired about 6 months ago. This is my first open source job, and I'm loving it. I got to go to the open source summit in Vancouver recently, and I signed up for the OpenSSF day and made the mistake of telling my boss that, and now he's like, "Cool, you're the OpenSSF guy now." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool," but no, it's cool. So I'm still kind of like getting my feet underneath me, trying to figure out, where I can help out, where I just need to get plugged in and stuff. So, but so far everybody's very nice, and this is really important work. So I'm totally on board. This is cool stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh, and welcome. Yeah, I'd say as far as communities go, the open source community is one of the best. So you're in good company.
Yeah.
Glad to have you. I think your feedback or insight would be really good because, Jeff, David, and I, we've been doing this for quite some time now. So I think having a unique point of view will be very helpful. So please feel free to jump in at any time or provide feedback or your thoughts. They're very welcome. So
awesome. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So we're talking about basically getting to a final v1.1 essentially, and looks like to do that we need to combine v1.1 with 1.0 and remove the duplicates. Is that what you were saying, Jeff?
Yeah, I think we were like focusing on writing the text, and we didn't actually finish the list for the announcement. So
Okay.
I think it was a little bit premature to get all that review or comments, but that's what happened.
Okay. Well, let's do it. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna say at least we can dedicate 15 minutes to getting this to a finalized state. So I might need a little bit of help and guidance from the group, but yeah, let's do it. I'm trying to see here. I'm gonna slide I'll do it. Okay. There are some comments, I think, right? Enterprise version is also open source. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good comment. We can take that into account next time, I guess.
Yeah, I would say our justification for no is probably still reasonable. And then we have V1.1.
Oh yeah, it shouldn't be called
Okay,
framework. It should be called Laravel.
that's right. Okay, so maybe if Laravel's already on here, maybe we could even just take this out.
Yeah.
I don't think you mean duplicitous.
No. What does duplicitous mean? That's probably isn't the place for that. All right, and I spelled it wrong. Nice. Okay.
Deceitful.
Yeah, like two-faced.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me, David. All right, so we're getting rid of framework there. Okay. I mean, I'm glad to see we have people discussing. I mean, I think that was the intention here.
Yeah.
We wanted it to be something that people could curate. But that's for later. Okay.
So is this Apache? Yeah,
Right.
this should be Apache HTTPD.
This one here.
Yeah. Yeah, and we should update that link too. I don't know if
Actually,
that's
I'm not just gonna
the
make.
actual link.
Yeah, I know. I want to just make stuff up here. All right. Sure. Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's comment is addressed. The 6-star I think is fine to say it's the whole tool. Makes sense. So he's saying it makes sense that we just say 6-star.
Okay. So now we're gonna basically combine V1.0 with V1.1 and with V1.1 and remove any duplicates.
Yeah, so we should just copy all the yeses from the second tab onto the first tab.
I see. Okay. So these are all of the yeses from.
Yep.
Gosh darn it. Okay. Need to get a mouse trackpad. Okay. Look how we have a reluctant yes here. That's funny. Okay, so if I did that correctly, which I probably didn't. Okay, and then there's probably, if I would imagine, I'd probably imagine there's some duplicates here. Is there a
Yeah.
relatively simple way to just like okay, maybe I should before I potentially destroy this. Okay, so yeah, I do. Maybe it's just this. Okay. Oh, but now
Just
this
push.
got fucked up or messed up. Sorry. Um.
Maybe you need to delete the first row. No. Okay. Which cells are
Yeah.
merged?
Tell you what. Since this is my copy, I'll just clean up this. Clean this up. See if this works now. Oh, sorry, this is taking so long, y'all.
Oh, no worries. I don't know how to do this.
Yeah. Which one of these? I
Are-
think it's these
are all of
columns that
these?
are more.
Yeah, all of these have D and E merged or what? That's weird.
Oh my goodness. Okay, maybe then. Okay, no. Okay, we got this. I think some, yeah, D and E are merged. So
For
maybe
all
I'll
of
just
the,
go. Yeah,
yeah.
I'll just unmerge these. Oh my goodness. I swear I'm better with with these tools. It's the pressure. Okay, let's see if that fixes it.
I think you need to only select,
I mean, everything
like
from
select
104 to 160 are all split.
It looks like there's probably 13 duplicates.
Yeah, I think you need to select all the cells, but then only check A when it has all those check boxes.
Oh, okay.
That's my guess.
Let's give it a try. Oh, yeah. Nice, Jeff. I'm glad you noticed that because I would have just kept clicking stuff all day. Okay.
But wait, so I think column E had some stuff in it for the ones at the bottom. Those are going to be misaligned now. Just undo and redo it. With
Okay.
select E as well.
Okay. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, we'll probably
And-
have to look through it again because there's like, there might be like kernel and Linux kernel,
Yeah, that's a good point.
but maybe
Um,
maybe we should alphabetize it now and just scroll through real quick.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay, so that was on that kind of test,
oh yeah.
but I wonder, okay. I think okay. Okay, there are no merged cells. Okay. Ah. Well, I guess. Oh, goodness. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. I needed the mouse today of all days. Okay, unmerge. All right. Okay. Uh, since we already have it here, I can just copy and paste this
Yeah, yeah.
into. I guess we could go through it real quick, see if there are any duplicates.
Gonna sort it by name on A.
Okay. All right. Let's do this. Pardon my ignorance. Are Go and Golang the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's Go and Golang. And then there's Linux and Linux kernel. But are
Mhm.
those are different, I believe, correct?
No.
No? Okay. No, those are spelled. I believe these two are different as well, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we had Linux and Linux kernel. Oh, so we had Linux and Linux kernel. Okay.
Yeah, I think you missed the rest of the columns there in the sort.
Oh, Yeah. I should have done that. Okay.
Yeah, just select the whole sheet and then sort it.
Okay.
There you go.
I have to take this out. Goodness. Okay. Okay, so yeah. So we can remove this second Linux kernel.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other one that we had that was a duplicate was,
And Golang, right?
that's right, Golang. I guess we have different URLs too.
Probably all go to the same place.
Oh, it's a mirror. Okay.
Well, there's
that's
GitHub, Google
cool.
Source, and GoDev.
Okay. Is there one that's more succinct than the other? Is Golang more succinct than Go?
I think we should call it Go.
Okay. Okay, so got rid of Golang, which I believe was those were the only two that were not duplicitous, but duplicates. Because PHP and PHP Symphony are different.
Yeah.
I think everything else. Okay, so I'm gonna now, although no, I did get rid of the name. Okay.
Yeah, so we've got the different columns now for like the old list and the new list.
Oh, okay.
Some of them we wrote like little, I mean, I actually, most of them we wrote little descriptions on like what our thoughts are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which ones what we want to publish, officially, or if we want to have any column that's like a justification. What do y'all think?
Honestly, I think, I mean, if this is kind of like just the display of what we came up with, I think you might even be right that we probably just need, I mean, the name of the project, a URL, maybe that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could keep like just the justification and notes just to show that, we didn't just pull this out of our behinds, but
I mean, we definitely need to keep that in our spreadsheet. But like if we
yeah.
make a document or a little, or if we would do that little website publishing thing, GitHub pages, that's what we're going to point people at. And I see over and over people commenting like Docker, unlike if it says Docker pull count, that's like a bad way to decide things. Or if it says criticality score, they're like, criticality score is bad, or whatever it says,
Right. Right. Yeah, seriously. So
we do have two columns, like we do have two URLs where we try to like have canonical source repository and the project website homepage.
oh,
I like
right.
that. Like if we can keep that. I don't know. Or we just have one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, all people want to see is what we came up with, right? So maybe just these two, and maybe, yeah, just the URL.
Yeah, I mean, if you like went through every project and came up with a really well-worded justification, then we could have it, you know? That'd be like a whole nother few weeks, a few weeks of work.
Not to put you on the spot, I'm curious, Josh, do you have any initial thoughts or gut thoughts?
Oh, I'm totally on the spot. Yeah. Actually, as you were kind of flipping through the list, I was like, this is a really good list. These are all really important things. Like I've heard of basically all of them, so it's pretty cool. And I'm glad to see things like Bitwarden on the list as well. So even though there's like a commercial company behind that, it's still making the list. But yeah, no, I think this is. It just seems like it's a good idea. All of this stuff. And yeah, the whole having to go through everything a little, like it has to be cleaned up. I think that's just all there is to it. And yeah, I agree. Like being clear by saying Golang instead of Go is a good idea. And also making sure that, yeah, Linux versus Linux kernel, like, yeah, those are obviously the same thing. Even though they support things like Android and other, but yeah, all the components of a Linux distro ought to be considered separately, I think, because they are put together based on the needs of the person using it. So yeah, no, this is good stuff.
Oh, thank you, Josh. I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that. Please feel free to keep coming to our meetings.
Nope, not anymore. I'm out.
Uh,
No, just kidding. I'm gonna put a big label on it. Not friendly to introverts. No, just kidding.
Okay, so I think, yeah, I'd say, I mean, for a final, more or less, to close this out, we just have, you know, the name of the project, a URL, and, you know, this, I'd say, is a good set of projects, at least for a final product of all of our efforts. People can use this, I would say. I mean, I know it's already being used to some degree by Project Alpha. We did something with it earlier with that great MFA project. You know, we can use this as a data point, justification point for facilitating security audits for these projects. So I'd say, I mean, if the objective was to kind of close out the set and have something, I'd say this fits the bill.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, nice. So I'll just do here.
Out of curiosity, what was the tasking? Like what were we set out to do?
The goal essentially was to come up with a set of critical projects in the open source ecosystem. It was meant to be pretty vague in that sense because that was kind of where our starting point was. And then for the last year, we've done basically a year and a half, we've done 2 iterations here. And then it was basically presented to OpenSSF and OpenSSF TAC, and they provided some feedback on it, some good feedback on kind of where to go next. And we are kind of incorporating that now. So what we're doing is finishing out basically the set. We've been calling it a set also because a lot of folks got caught up on lists and, you know, and implied prioritization of said list. You know, they see a number 1 and they see a project and they think that's the number 1 thing, you know. So we've been calling it a set to kind of diffuse that. And then, yeah, I would say probably the next step would be, let's take everything we learned from the feedback we got from doing this and kind of do a better, another iteration. But really, I think being more mindful of some of the things that maybe we rushed through the first time. And then, incorporating all of that feedback that we got.
Nice. Okay.
So
Yeah, I saw
like-
that all the previous meetings are up on YouTube. Do you think those are worth watching?
Yeah, I would say so. Some of them where we're just kind of going through this set might feel repetitive, but
Yeah.
it might be a good way to see kind of how we discuss things, how we talked about things. And then, so yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, it's looking very good. Sorry, I need to get to another event. But that's up
Okay.
to next time.
See you, David.
Okay, thank you, David. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Cool. Nice.
So what's the next? So now, we've got this polished up. I'll take a look at it and see if I can find any other problems. Then make everything clear. Solutions, clarify input outputs. Oh, that's what we already said. Or was that last one? No, that's this one. Yeah, what do you think we should work on next? Do we need to work on the text more? That David had,
Yeah.
are you going to still go with that, or do you want to start over?
No, I think that's a great place to start. We should start,
Okay.
I think, maybe by capturing, all of basically the metadata, the context that people, one way or another didn't get. And maybe just start by literally listing them out and start writing them out. So, I mean, we kind of did something like this, as you know, like when we started this.
Yeah.
When we started this last year, but I think really what we need to do is essentially something like this, but that captures things like, who is this for? What is the, all those high level questions that I think when we go about showing this again, ideally it should be, listed along with this stuff, so we could have a couple bits of information at the top, almost even like a little bit like, even though I know we're not using this, but David, the thing that David started working on here, where, have like an introduction, what this is, what it isn't, kind of setting out those things that people didn't get from this. But also in a way where, because I feel like no matter what we do, we're always going to get people saying, oh, well, poking holes in it essentially, and that's fine. But I think if we can cover as many of the bases as we can, so do you think, should we create like a new document then?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can't decide what I'm not clear on like what we wish, what we want to do with this iteration.
This iteration meaning the one we just finished?
Yeah.
Like,
are we going to publish it on a GitHub page? Are we doing anything? Are we just saying, okay, the spreadsheet is there, we're done, and we're going to like maybe do the roadshow? Like, like, so OpenSSF marketing is saying they're not gonna do they're not going to do a blog post, but we should just publish it. I don't I kind of know, like, is it up to us what we want to do as far as
Right.
like our GitHub pages goes?
Yeah, these are all excellent questions. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, just because we're not marketing this per se, like publishing it, I think we could definitely still do something like the concept you mentioned with the roadshow, because that will help, I think get engagement. It'll help ideally get people who are going to show up and help us with this, instead of just wait for something and then say, not enough people participated. So hopefully we'll get more participation. So I think it would be, I mean, for current set V1.1, because another thing we could do too that might, I don't know, it might circumvent, like, instead of going to all these different working groups, if we, because I feel like the TAC has a good representation of people in all the different working groups. So if we could potentially kill, I don't like that expression, get a bunch of things done with one stroke or whatever, we can maybe just go to TAC and for the roadshow and have like a very specific ask. Or we literally could do like more of a roadshow and just
I think
go
we
to all the
actually need to
different working meetings.
go to the working groups. If we have something that we think we want to get out of it, like again, like, are we asking for participation? I think that would be premature because we don't really have an updated process to like do another list with more participation.
Okay.
Are we asking for ideas? Are we asking, like, are we trying to just promote our current list and say, hey, would you like to use this? Are we asking for ways to make our list more relevant if that's needs to be? Are we asking? Yeah, I don't know what we should. Yeah, we should have an idea of what we want.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, you saying that got me thinking that maybe we could basically do internal promotion. Yeah, basically. But I think we could potentially do it asynchronously in that if we, I think every working group has an email list and a Slack channel. So if we went to every single work group and said, hey, this is V1.1 of our set of critical projects. Here's a survey of a couple of questions. So I like what you said about like, how can you, how do you see this being used? Can you use this and how could you use it? And then we could also use it as a mechanism for getting feedback in terms of like, how can we automate, or not automate this, but how can we do this in a way that's maybe more sustainable and more efficient. So we could potentially do with that, we could do two things. We could share the results of our work and show people that we actually produced something. We weren't just talking about we weren't just talking ourselves in circles. We came up with something at least.
Yeah.
And then get basically feedback. I put, ideally it could give us both feedback and get people, at least aware of what we're doing that could potentially drive more participation. So maybe, yeah, just like share that along with survey to all working groups.
Yes, I mean, if we're gonna go, like, I'd be happy to try to do more of the presentations to the working groups, as many as I can do. But I think we get a little bit more engagement that way than Slack or email. Email I think is pretty dead. Slack, I think if we post in main, like people will see it, but I don't know how many people will respond.
Yeah, that's a good point.
People like to go to the meetings and, discuss.
Yeah. Okay.
But it definitely Slack will, we can do Slack. I think if we're gonna say like, here is the list, can you use it? We need to have the not just the spreadsheet, but the description of what it is and how we made it, so that they can look at it, or we can show it, and people can come back and see, like, they can answer the question, can you use this? Because the way that they can answer that is knowing what decisions and were made going into it.
Okay. So like providing that further context.
Not so much that, but the way that basically, like, these things were our process, like the description of our process. I think it's important to cover. So I mentioned this when I put this in the notes for the last meeting. I wasn't there, but like, I think it's important to cover the fact that, like, we haven't considered every project in existence, like,
Yeah.
this isn't the top 100, because there are things we haven't considered yet. Projects were proposed to us in a variety of manners, as well as some automated scraping that we did. And then the way that they were proposed didn't dictate the way they were approved, like, if it was proposed due to criticality score, that wasn't the reasoning why we said yes to it. That was just how it got on our plate. So all that stuff, I think we need to put, like, I think David's document, like, tried to capture some of that. I think it still needs work, or but we need to have, if we're going to do something with this list, I think we need to have that published somewhere, either in the, a completed Word doc, or on GitHub pages.
Okay. Okay, so that's a good idea too then. Clean up and put on GitHub. So we would clean it up a little bit, maybe provide that contextual information. So that actually kind of ties into, well, it does two things, because, like, we want to, I think you're right, we want to capture the process and what we did in some way. So even if it's a very high level, like, list of, what the process was like, that would certainly help give people the context they would need to give us the feedback and the engagement that we would want. Because you're right. I mean, we don't want people to just, okay. But that brings up a great point about basically capturing capturing basically the metadata, more or less. So, like you were talking about, process use, limitations, intended use, I guess. And this came up a number of times too, and I think maybe we should, if we could, at least come to a consensus on it, about, like, what is the unit we're using, because we have some that are open source projects, but they're repositories. And the way I at least have thought about it for a long time was that like the minimum unit is like a software package, basically an open source software package. But you know, I think other people have different opinions on that. So I don't know if we can come to an agreement on that, like saying, you know, what exactly it is that we are showing you. Like we are showing you open source packages, not necessarily like collections of packages or repositories of packages, or
I think it goes beyond that. I think we're showing projects. So a project might consist of multiple packages. Like Apache isn't a project, it's a foundation. It's got, you can't call every Apache software piece a single project, but you know, you might call SigStore a project, right? Or Kubernetes is probably stretching the limit of what a project is.
yeah,
it's probably beyond that, but we still have Kubernetes on there. But you know, like even entire distributions are pretty much, we maybe that wasn't why we stayed away from, maybe there's another reason why we stayed away from those, but yeah, I think package is too small, but I agree with you that like some description of what we're trying to identify here is good. And I think it would be like some attempt at describing what is a project and what is greater than a project, you know?
right, exactly. So even having some of that, because I know,
yeah,
and I think that was a lot of the feedback that we got here, like from other folks, like you know, who's the consumer, what do they want, clear about the input and output, all that stuff, you know. So this is, I think, really good. I think we've made some good progress. We at least have, you know, a cleaned up, you know, very straightforward set of projects that we said we would produce. And I think we're at around 150, which is pretty good. There's more than enough in terms of needs for resources out of these 150 projects. And then, yeah, we'll continue talking about how we'll leverage what we already have and get and promote it internally, and also how we will iterate and do a more kind of sustainable, ideally, more sustainable, less manual, more community curated driven process. But I think to do that, we have to be very clear about, you know, what it is we're doing and all that stuff. So we'll definitely incorporate all of the feedback. All feedback from tech. So with that, actually, come to think of it, Jeff, real quick, I think, I think in 2 weeks, I will likely be out of commission. Just letting you know that now in case I am not available in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So no problem. Yeah, I'll be there. I'll try to make sense of both what David has in his doc and what we have in our process docs and see if I can start coming up with something new that we can use as an opener for the list for when we present it, just so that people know what it is.
Okay. Cool. Well, with that, I think we're at time. Thanks everyone for the discussion, participation. Thank you, Josh, for participating. And
Yeah, absolutely.
we'll see you all soon.
Sweet.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Have a good weekend, everyone. Yeah, you too, Jeff. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
I don't know what I did, but I'm like sharing my screen on Zoom and I'm like minimized everything, so I can't see. I can't see what I'm